So today's episode of Star Trek Next Generation Symbiosis that we just watched, before we jump into the episode, Alex, I need to know, how did it feel seeing David once again?
Set course to intersect with the freighter.
A split-second rescue pulls survivors from a fiery disaster.
Do you think our visitors pose a threat?
I don't know.
Only to find bitter enemies battling over life-saving drugs. Now, their desperate feud becomes a deadly face-off.
You will take us to our planet and leave us there with our medicine, or this person dies.
On Star Trek, The Next Generation.
There was that moment where, like, is that... No, it isn't. And it's like, oh my God, it's him. And at first I was like, oh God. But the thing is, he's great in this.
Yes, Mayor Butrick, I also thought was much better in this episode as this character of T'Jon, much more than the character of David. If you haven't seen those reactions, Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, check that out. Also, the man who played Sobe, Judson Scott, he was also in Wrath of Khan as Khan's kind of son that was never confirmed that ended up dying.
Really?
Yeah, that was him.
What? So both sons of, like, of Wrath of Khan were in the...
Yeah.
Why?
And they both died in the movies and got recast for this one episode.
What are the odds of that? Wow.
The guest stars were really good in this episode. All of their characters were believable. I bought into them. Richard Lineback played Romas, and his performance felt a little bit over the top to me.
You disgust me. If you could see the suffering the plague has caused, you were going to.
You know, once we learn what's going on with these people and how drastic it is, I get it. But I thought that, you know, T'Jon was much more believable in his performance, and then Romas was just like, oh, just like over the top, overacting, and I was like, take it down a couple notches.
Yeah, for me, he was riding that fine line. You know, he's going through withdrawal, I guess, where, like, I can see it to the point where, like, okay, it might be a bit ridiculous. But for me, it was like, okay, I get it. Like, a little bit more, I would have been like, all right, you know, take it down a notch. But for me, he was right there. But I do like T'Jon more, and which I don't know, but Merrick a lot better at this than he was at Kirk's son.
I think it came down to the writing. I think it was the writing of the character, and this was kind of redemption for him, you know, kind of given a shitty side role as David, where his character was just whining all the time and didn't have much screen time and was purely there as a prop for Kirk's character. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, yeah, it's a side character in one episode of a TV show, but, you know, he gets to be his own character with his own purpose, and I thought he did a great job.
Feels more fleshed out. Feels more real. Like, I believe the whole backstory they told about these two planets in symbiosis with each other, where, like, one's in need of something and one's in need of something. Again, it's like this weird, horrible, symbiotic relationship that's been lasting for 200 years. Where, I mean, one's really taking advantage of the other, but they're both able to live and thrive because of each other in this awful way.
So I really liked the conflict with those guest characters, but let's not bury the lead here, because I think the more, you know, kind of interesting discussion is how the episode kind of just sets up this plot and then halts and becomes a Prime Directive episode.
It is not our mission to impose Federation or Earth values on any others in the galaxy.
Well, in this case, Captain, I disagree.
Which I did not see coming at all. It made sense once they brought it up, like, oh, we can't do that Prime Directive. But I just was so interested in the plot itself that they had set up, the conflict between these two third parties, that for it to just be like, oh, well, we can't do anything Prime Directive, it kind of felt a bit disappointing. But I don't know if that's a bad thing, because I found myself so sympathetic with Dr. Beverly and, like, what she wanted to do and it being stopped by Picard, that I was like, am I disappointed from the stance of, like, I wish the episode was different? Or am I just kind of, it's good in the sense that it made me sympathetic with what Dr. Beverly wanted to do?
Two societies are intertwined in a symbiotic relationship,
with one society profiting at the expense of the other.
Yeah, it's tough, because it does feel like, oh, that Prime Directive thing just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, oh, what? I mean, I guess we should talk about the opening of the episode as well, where it's like, now that I think about it, it just felt like this opening with, like, T'Jon not knowing how his ship works was just an excuse for the resolution of Picard being like, no, we can't help you fix it.
That coil is misaligned.
Really?
You have the necessary tools to realign the coil?
I don't think so.
You'd think after like 200 years of this relationship going on, where like these freighters going back and forth, and none of the people previous to this plague knew how that who were the last ones to know how it worked? Did they die in this? It just felt like it was something like, okay, we need a reason why Picard wins with this Prime Directive thing. Like, not win, but like a solution. So it's like, oh, let's introduce this thing where they don't know how it works, because they just needed to beam aboard to before they fall into this planet, right? And like all the stuff, it's like not knowing how it works. That was.
It felt
You know what I'm
very,
saying?
yeah, it felt very plot convenient that he didn't know how it worked or anything, but they really played into that. So I definitely thought they were trying to get across that either it's because he was high from the drug or, like you said, withdrawing already from the drug. But with that being said, here's my biggest problem with the whole Prime Directive thing. If that was the case, why would Picard even offer to begin with to give him the temporary solution of the coils?
They are critical to our survival. Will you fix them?
Instruct engineering to proceed.
Aye, sir.
That leads me to believe, did he only decide not to give it to him because of the whole discussion he had with Dr. Beverly? Because, like, it doesn't make any sense. You say, yeah, we'll give you these coils, come aboard, this whole thing plays out, and then at the end, oh, we actually can't give you the coils. It was just kind of like plot convenient.
In the beginning, because they were about to die, maybe because they were about to like literally crash on this planet. So
Like, the ship blew up.
yeah, so they were offered.
But they said we have two other ones that aren't working.
Yeah, so just to offer to help because their ship blew up, it's okay in that sense. But once they find out about like what they're going to use it for, then they're like, oh no, we can't.
But then he decides at the end of the episode, actually, no, I can't because Prime Directive. Like, did he forget? Like,
I guess he was willing to go against it there, I guess. Maybe because they were in distress, maybe. Like, so many questions. And also, it's like, with the whole, like, drug, whether it worked or not, like, we were laughing because the guy seemed like Norm Macdonald. Like, we can picture, like, David's role, like, that actor, like, we picture Norm Macdonald. It's like, when we see them, like, finally, take the drug, or when they're needing the drug, it didn't seem like any of that from that scene. You know what I'm saying? That scene felt completely separate.
yeah, it seems like once they beamed him on board, they were different characters.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to know where the line is. I'm glad that they're talking more about the Prime Directive and addressing it more head on. But I just want to know, okay, why are you allowed to save their life and allowed to give them a temporary measure of these coils, but you can't do the things that you say you can't do in this episode? Like, where is the actual line of the Prime Directive? Because until we have that, it feels like it's just kind of up to, in universe, Picard's discretion, but out, in real life, the writer's discretion, which I guess is fine. It's TV, but it's a little frustrating in an episode like this.
Yeah, it definitely is. But one thing this episode, it just makes me wish that Bones and Beverly Crusher would meet, because I feel like they like each other a lot. Because Beverly is basically Bones in this episode, the human side. It's like, we can't let this happen. This is horrible. And like Picard's like, well, it's like we can't. And just like Bones would do, screw you. Like,
Yeah.
You got to help these people.
Yeah.
So seeing Beverly basically be her version of that in this was very nice.
As always, Gates McFadden gave a great performance here too, and I really, really liked this whole realization of what it was. Like, I did not expect it to be, kind of a commentary on drug addiction and on pharmaceuticals almost to an extent, and I don't have the knowledge to know what was going on at that time in the world, but, even today, we're dealing with, people who get addicted to drugs because of prescribed medicine that they can't get off, then their prescription ends, so now they have to turn to actual illegal drugs, because now they're addicted. That's a real horrible problem. So I don't know if that was still going on back in 87 or 88, but I was really impressed that was the topic they chose to handle.
You're feeling better.
Yes, thank you. I'm fine now.
I want to talk to you about the scene with Wesley and Tasha, because I actually really liked the scene, but you seem to really hate Wesley in the scene.
It's like, I don't understand. It's like, what?
What I can't understand is why anyone would voluntarily become dependent on a chemical.
Wesley, no one wants to become dependent.
It's like, shut up, kid.
But I mean, I can get what he's saying from the perspective of a kid, like, who hasn't had a drug addiction. It's like, sometimes it is hard to understand, like, even now as, someone in my late 20s, it's hard to look at somebody and say, someone that's addicted to drugs, for example, and think, oh my God, like, I could never even imagine myself beginning to go down that road, because I know that I don't want to be addicted to drugs. But, those people didn't think that they were going to do that either. It's not something that someone typically actively chooses, you know?
Like everyone has a different path and ways they end up there. So many people make good choices, bad choices, and sometimes it's not even their fault. And just like the non-empathetic, like I don't know. I used to be like, oh, I'll never, never do that. And then like, I don't know, like I like to drink sometimes, and like it's not as bad as heroin or anything, but it's like my own little vice that I sometimes do. It's like, and him being like so unempathetic towards like other people, it's like, oh, why would you ever do that? It's like,
yeah,
people go through some shit, man. It's like, don't be so judgmental. We're supposed to be in the future here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it was a mature way of talking about it. Like, that's why I'm glad they had the scene, because, Tasha really had a moment where she could explain it to him.
Before you know it, you're taking the drug not to feel good, but to keep from feeling bad.
And that's the trap.
It wasn't just, South Park mean, drugs are bad, okay? Like, it was like she actually explained, like, this is why people would do drugs, and this is how it makes you feel, and, like, it feels good. It was a bit of a mature way that I didn't expect to talk about it. With that being said, it was like pushing up against the line of being preachy. Like, I'm glad they ended it where it ended, because I didn't want them to just like harp on it. I have seen some people say that this show can be a bit preachy, so I don't think this got there, but I could see how if they kept going, it would have gotten like, okay, we get it, but it didn't quite get there, so I liked how it was.
Yeah, did end at a good time, because that scene went on any longer, let me tell you.
You really, at first, didn't like how the aliens just had a little nose prosthetic and that's it. And I actually did like that, because at least it's better than nothing. But I'm having low expectations, when I say that. It obviously could be better.
Yeah. I don't know. As the episode went on, I just started not to think about it. It's like, okay, I just got more sucked into the episode. But at first glance, I'm like, oh, great. That was the special effects for the day. A little divot in the nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I could have so easily seen them beam aboard and just have nothing and just look like humans, because of what this show has already given us.
Yeah.
I could have. So when I saw just a little thing in their nose, I'm like, okay, they tried.
But did they?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like after the Wesley Starfleet Academy episode, like that cool alien with this weird design flaw where he has to like breathe into this mask thing, like shit like that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then just to like, I don't know.
I thought it was a bit of a letdown that they introduced this like really cool idea of like sun powers, and then they just don't really do anything with it.
It's just an excuse for the rest of the episode why things stop working at some time. Oh, it's the solar flare.
Yeah, but I'm talking about too the actual characters having like the power of the sun and like to electrocute people. To John does it once to Riker, threatening to kill him.
You would take us to our planet and leave us there with our medicine, or this person dies.
And then after that, it's never really brought up again.
Yeah, you're right. Like it could have been. It was just like just to have a tense scene where something could happen. Like it doesn't really play off at all.
And look, I get it. We're not going to have like an MCU, throwing sunbeams at each other.
I don't want a fucking, Palpatine Ray lightsaber, and I am all the Breckians, It's like, it's just a weird thing. Like, it could have easily just been grab a phaser or grab something. It's like, why did you need to have this effect of...
It was cool at the beginning when it like came out of nowhere and they all just started like hurting each other. But then it just like never really led to anything.
Yeah, it's just to have that one scene with Riker once again being trapped.
Yeah, he's had a weird couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Not his episodes, really.
This episode is really weird, but I do like it. I love the whole symbiotic relationship. I love similar to that, I love that dour ending, similar to other Prime Directive episodes where it's like, this is what we can do.
Yeah, overall I enjoyed it as well. The two weak parts to me, though, were the first one is the scene where Picard and Dr. Beverly are like revealing to the Breckians that they know about the situation, but they do it in the most like over-the-top exposition spilling way ever. Like,
the plague had once infected their planet as well.
They were infected. Their ancestors realized that it was a narcotic.
And like a lot of it was info we didn't even really need to know. So I was like, oh my God, like they're really giving a lot of exposition here that they're just coming up with on the spot. There's no way they would actually know that. And then the second part was in the elevator scene, which I really liked the elevator scene with Picard and Dr. Beverly. Then he's like, hold, good moment. But then, I don't know. I feel like a bit like the casual of Picard being like, oh, we'll never know if we made the right choice. And he's like, yeah, we'll never know. And then they just go onto the bridge and he's like, just get us out of here. it didn't hit me like how Kirk's, let's get the hell out of here, or, Spock, take us home, in those episodes. In this, it just felt like Picard didn't really care. He was like, we don't know. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, like when he said hold on that bridge, I needed like a scene of him like putting his hands against like against the wall, or like this, where it's like, sometimes I really hate this job. Something where it's like, where like a little bit of human comes out of him, where it's like, where he really feels for these people and what he did. It's like just something where like the security cam's not going, where he's not being seen, just something where he can go. Just something like that, where it's like he shows some regret that he had to do this, but like that was his only option. It's like, Beverly, I wish I could have done something.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. You know what I mean?
Oh, that could have been so good.
Right.
It could have been the best scene thus far of the whole series.
And then he hits resume and he puts it back on for the end.
Just to kind of metaphorically take off the mask for one moment with Dr. Beverly.
Yes, just to see him like, God, I wish I could do something here.
And I appreciate that an attempt was made. Like, at least I like that the scene's there at all. Like, rather than not having the scene there.
Mm-hmm.
So an attempt was made, and I like that they're trying. I just think they're not fully there yet. Just based on these performances, the writing, everything we've seen in this first season that's supposedly really bad, I have full confidence the show will eventually get there.
Oh yes, I'm sure. Like everything we've wanted or predicted or all that, it's all going to happen.
It's all 150 episodes. It's going to happen somewhere.
Something's going to happen.
Destination, sir.
I don't care. Let's just get some distance between us and this system.
Aye, sir.
All right, we're going to jump into our patron takes. After we watch and fully discuss the episode, we like to take a look at what our patrons have to say. So over on Patreon, they get to let us know what they think of the episode, as well as ask us questions or predict how we're going to think. We don't read it until right now after fully discussing the episode. So we only get to read a few of them here for the video, but we do read all of them, and there's a full discussion for every episode over on our Patreon. So go check that out.
This one's from Justin Dabari. Drugs are bad, okay? Didn't you say that?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who made that reference, yeah. I'm going to read this one from Michael. I just love that I feel like there's at least one of these comments in every patron take so far. I actually really like this one. It's like, the season's good.
Oh, you did, really?
I actually really like this one from season 1 because we get more insight into the Prime Directive. Also, there's a special guest star. I'm assuming he's talking about David. Yeah. I just wanted to read that one because I thought that was funny. Every single episode, we got people saying, "Oh, season 1's so bad. Season 1's so bad." Then you jump into episode by episode. What? Wait a minute. This one's actually pretty good. It's like, yeah, most of them are.
All right, this one's from Nolan. The Drugs Are Bad episode. A bit after school specialish. Also the return of Kirk's son. Well, not really. The producers gave him the role so he could get medical benefits to help with his AIDS diagnosis. God damn. Oh. As you know, it sadly didn't help in the long run. It's horrible. Also the return of Khan's maybe son Joachim, but also not quite. Got to get used to Star Trek reusing actors. I'm fine with it. That's cool. Bring everyone back.
Yeah, I'm cool with it as long as, like, it's a different enough character to where it's not distracting. I'll admit it was distracting for David at first when I was like, oh, that's David. Like, this is weird. But I quickly got over it. And yeah, is it because he had a silly nose prosthetic? Like, but yeah, it does help a little bit. Like, make him do something. Like how Mark Leonard has had all those different roles, but he's always looked different in all of those roles for the most part.
Yeah.
Whether it's the costume, makeup, whatever it is, so that's fine with me.
Or go way out of left field with Nurse Chapel. Have her be the complete 180 of the character that she originally played.
This one's from Anthony Bernacci. He says, I think the moment when Beverly realizes the true nature of the illness and we see the plot twist written on her face before she reveals it in dialogue is Gates McFadden's best acting in season 1, and she's had many other fantastic moments. I believe he's talking about in that slow zoom scene. I thought that was really great as well.
Oh, yeah, when they finally get the medicine and you can see him do like the high.
Yeah, getting high, yeah.
And she's just like...
Yeah, great face acting from her without having to say a word, but also great, directorial choice or the DOP or whoever did it of the slow zoom. It wasn't like a cheesy or corny time to use it. It was very effective in that moment.
Yeah. What if they did the jaw zoom?
It's like, all right.
All right, this one's from Prof Moth. I really like this episode. The non-interference policy hits both ways. To me, this is what non-interference is all really about. is really all about. Development must happen naturally, even if it's not pretty. I am certainly glad no alien came down when humans were destroying and hunting maybe Neanderthals and said, that does not seem fair. Let's help these poor lower species. We might not exist at all. It's an interesting point. But did aliens come down? Do aliens exist? Did they build the pyramids? I don't know.
Yeah, I've never actually thought of it that way, flipping the prime directive of what if it happened to us.
Us, yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Some people would say that it did happen, but imagine an alien species did violate the prime directive, and all they did was build some pyramids, and then they left. Thanks for.
Yeah, it's weird in this case because it is two separate planets. So
Yeah.
I mean, for us, just knowing anything else is out there, it'd be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? But for them, it's like, oh, okay. For us, it'd be like a real, like, oh, this is wrong. Well, what do you mean this is wrong? Who are you? And us being, we would just start shooting them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think this one's interesting from Badger. This is a good fun fact. This is one of only 5 TNG episodes and the only season 1 episode that doesn't have a star date. Because there's no captain's log at the beginning. Remember, Picard was just talking to the crew?
Okay, so it didn't open up with the captain's log when he was talking about the sun? Because, like, it seemed like a captain's log, and then, like, you know, the shot of the ship, and then it comes to the inside, and Picard's in the middle of it.
No, it's not a captain's log. He's saying a message to the Enterprise. Like, he's talking over the speaker.
Okay, I'm so used to him saying captain's log, I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Like I said, most part, the first 4 minutes of each episode leaves my brain as soon as the episode takes off.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's interesting. I actually liked the opening because it's something different, but also, yeah, to not have a star date at all, I bet the people who kind of like try to sort all these episodes by star date are very mad about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've seen people advocate for like watching all of Star Trek in star date order, so I don't even know where they would put this one.
Oh, God. Oh, God. The level of dedication I do not have, so... the watching Stardate order. Oh, that'd be crazy. But yeah, once again, the whole sun thing. I just hate, like, I almost say like, oh, it doesn't work because of the sun, the solar flares. I'm just like, okay, kind of like, you know, oh, horror movie. Oh, no service. Call someone. No, you can't. It's like,
well, the no service is like the same thing as like the communicator getting jammed too.
Yeah, it's like, so I guess like the sun's a slightly more, you know.
It's just a thing.
Just a thing.
Just fill in X thing.
Yeah, it's just to, you know, get those. Oh, but what if, you know, it's like, why not, just to shut those people up, shut us up. And that happened, was it this episode or the one before where Picard basically told both of us, shut the fuck up?
That was this episode.
It was this episode?
Because
okay.
You were saying, I forget which yours was, but mine was about like, oh, why did they do? Oh, you were like, do they have the disease? And he immediately asks like, do you have the disease? And then I'm like, what about the medical scan? And he's like, what about the medical scan?
It's like, we're getting there.
Yeah, we can in real time feel the writers of the show catching up to our remarks.
It's like as they're writing, it's like, oh, someone's going to ask about this.
Yeah, they've been pretty good with that too.
They have, yeah.